I promised I would tell the story that I shared, I think, in front of one of the council meetings several meetings ago. When I was a kid, my dad had a boat, and we were out on probably Lake Erie, and we were fishing. And I remember asking him, how come we don't go further out? And he showed me the maps where it says you can't go into certain areas because this was in the early, mid-'70s because of all the pollution. It's just as bad now as it was then. But I remember looking at him, and I'm an 8 or 9-year-old kid, and I said, well, Dad, how did this happen? And he's trying to explain to an 8 or 9-year-old, and basically what he said was that there were there were bad people that did bad things, and there were good people who did nothing. 100, 150 years ago. And, it just struck me. And when they came to, when Rita came to speak to me, that was the one thing that I just kept thinking about, was being with my dad and him trying to explain to an 8-year-old. And I thought to myself, I don't want to have to explain to grandchildren or great-grandchildren or nieces or nephews or something down the road. And the least that the city of Buffalo could do was try to pass something that would stop fracking in the city of Buffalo. And, in a worst-case scenario, maybe it's really only the Teddy Roosevelt big stick policy. We're using our bully pulpit. But I do think it's the right thing to do, because there should not be, as one of the speakers that was in favor of fracking said, well, some people will be harmed, more or less is what he said, some people will be harmed for progress. Well, not in the 21st century. People shouldn't be harmed.
Hydrofracking is very dangerous. It most certainly is not the answer. Believe me, I know. My family has been living this nightmare for 3 years now. I am living in Collins, New York, and have felt the effects of vertical fracking. I cannot use my tap water. My water starts on fire. My family has been very ill, and one of my children has asthma. My children have had brain scans, unexplained viruses, and respiratory issues. And my house can literally blow up. My tap water is still flammable and contaminated. I don't know from one day to the next what's going to come out of my tap. When the water is clear enough, I can only give my children 1-minute showers. The New York State Department of Health said not to give any baths. What are you going to do if hydrofracking continues and so many people get sick and cannot work? Who will pay for the medical bills then? The gas industry claims that they are bringing many jobs to New York State. Wow, talk about lying. Almost all of the workers come from Texas. Aaron Brockovich fought for one chemical in a water supply. Now times that by 596, because that is what we are up against if we let them continue. I am not an activist, I'm just a mom who will live in fear, always wondering if my children will come down with cancer or some other horrible illness due to hydrofracking. And not knowing that by letting my children drink tap water, that their lives are being put in danger. And this is why I have decided to go public and speak out, so nobody else would have to go through this nightmare. I also have a statement from a good friend of mine, Josh Fox, who's the director of Gasland. He was sorry that he couldn't be here today, but I'm going to read a statement from him. I stand with Natalie and thousands of families across the nation who are bold and brave enough to speak about what is happening to them in the gas drilling country. The facts about what happens to watershed areas when gas wells are drilled and fracked continue to come to light, and the news is devastating. Water contamination, air pollution, and a public health crisis follow this industry everywhere it goes. No amount of gas industry PR money can spin away this story, being reported by citizens across the United States. The current moratorium is not enough. The environmental cost to the state of New York will be far outweighing the value of the gas, which will largely disappear with the gas companies leaving a toxic mess sprawling across the state. Natalie's story is a vital warning to millions who depend on fresh water throughout New York State and New York City. We urge New York State to ban the practice of hydraulic fracturing, period. This industry was just caught lying to and obstructing the United States Congress and should not be trusted. We need to move away from fossil fuels and towards renewable, truly clean energy as fast as we can. I urge Governor Cuomo to see the greatness of New York is in his hands and should not be wagered against the frackers' odds. He must be bold and kick the gas drillers out of New York State. We will stand behind him if he does so.
That's right. That's right.
And I want you to know that what you're doing today is pioneering. And I think what people need to realize is that, first, being a former council member, I can't remember when another council did a resolution on a bill, on a resolution that we were doing. And to go through great lengths to do that, I think really speaks volumes about how important this issue is. I can't remember the last time that I've seen that. That may have happened, but I can't recall. But that's for another body of government in another state to do that really says that this is a very important issue. And so I want the council and also Frack Action to know, and all the partners to know, that standing up is not easy, and particularly to some of the powerful interests. I read some of the things and some of the on the internet and some of the things they called the council. But one thing I'll tell you about is that battles like this in Towanda, Pennsylvania, and in Dimick, Pennsylvania are commonplace. Mm-hmm. They're commonplace. In fact, one of the roads, the people, as a sign of protest, line this dirt road with those bottles to tell the oil and gas companies how displeased that they are. That's their way of protesting against the contamination. So I just want you to know that stay encouraged. Trying to move this policy across the state is not going to be easy. But, a lot of issues that people have fought for in the past were not easy. But it happened. And I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate the council for what you've done. There are other cities in America, particularly in Texas, where they're actually drilling in cities, right? They're actually drilling in cities. And so it's not impossible. This gas does move. So while it's not as plentiful in Buffalo now, we don't know what could happen 20 years from now, or some natural occurrence or God occurrence were to happen that could shift the shale gas. That's not impossible. So other cities in America right now, they actually do have drilling in some cities in Texas. And so there's been a whole debate about that. So I want to just say, in short, congratulations, and I'm really proud to see what the council has done today. God bless.
We've been working with our board, and they right now, the Walestown board, is poised to present an ordinance to ban this practice. I really appreciate what the Buffalo Council has done. It really makes things easier. The other thing that we've been doing is we've been spreading the word through these different informational events to different places going further south into the more rural areas. And I'm learning even more and becoming even more alarmed about how this is affecting the folks down where the vertical fracking has been happening.
Real quick, because I'm new to the council, and when I got here, I thought, wow, does everybody come out in these numbers for every issue? And the answer is no. You all have displayed how important, and I ran on a platform of power to the people. And so you all have displayed how important people power is. I'm a pastor that has lobbied state for monies to clean up in the east side of Buffalo, pits and land that was left with lead, and where we're still suffering in certain areas with cancer and lupus. And so I said to some folks who came to me and lobbied to say, don't support the frackers. That's what they say. Don't support the frackers because of all the money you make. Well, I wish that there were some of you around years ago on the east side when people were saying, oh, don't worry about this lead. We're going to make a lot of money. It's going to do well for the economy. And what you have proven today, and I paraphrase, is that never doubt that a small amount of committed people cannot change the world. For indeed is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.
I really do hope that this inspires others to also defend their communities, which is what has been done here today through passing this legislation. Thank you all for coming out today. Thank you, Rita. doesn't want this. We don't want this. The second largest city in New York State just came out saying that we don't want fracking here. I think what more clearer of a message is there that New York State doesn't want this, and I hope that Cuomo takes that, reads about this, and takes that message. And I really do hope that this inspires other municipalities to pass similar bans. This is only